ICE commits terror because they are not actually law enforcement and they are murdering people in broad daylight for recording them. This video needed to be made now because there are people dying and there are still 3,000 people unaccounted for by ICE in detention right now. ICE lacks the ability to enforce traffic laws or local law. They are a federal force tasked specifically with finding undocumented people and deporting them. But what they do in following orders is immoral and illegal on other levels. They lack accountability because the president said they are immune to any legal actions while carrying out their job. That's why they are killing people. When people are dying in broad daylight at the hands of ICE, it says there is no alternative power yet built to instill the fear of the masses into ICE, and there is no accountability. It communicates that anyone standing up for immigrants and minorities are subject to state-sanctioned murder. ICE is also trying to deport indigenous Americans. Also, Latin Americans are indigenous and have more right to be here than settler colonizers. ICE on a day-to-day level tries to conduct operations to kidnap undocumented people in broad daylight and nighttime. They have conducted raids with military equipment, including biochemicals meant for overseas warfare. ICE is using biochemical weapons like HC gas on protesters, and this matters because it is cruel and unusual punishment for expressing the First Amendment, Second Amendment, and Fourth Amendment rights. Everyone is losing their rights right now. A man was killed for open carrying, which is legal, and he never had his hand on the gun. The reason why we are including the man shot by ICE and the woman shot by ICE is because they are white Americans who stood up for others and did nothing wrong and died anyway, and nobody is being held accountable. So organization is needed to combat this fascist force. I see ICE Gestapo thugs murdering people and I get a feeling of deep resentment for the government and the politicians. If regular people don't organize, all of this will go unchecked and continue to get worse. More people will die and the government will get even more brazen. Right-wingers don't fear ICE. They see them as a solution to a problem, but the problem is people, especially undocumented immigrants, are being used as a scapegoat for why drugs are in this country and why the economy is collapsing. It's multipolarity behind it. Fascism, the stage of economic development behind it. Fascism looks for someone to scapegoat sometimes for the economic failures of the government and the system. Nationalism in the USA has always been a white pride event, and whiteness implies a thought of superiority, ownership of this continent and hemisphere via colonialism. The reason it's happening now is because white people are becoming a minority and are losing their grip on the world, and the cultural hegemony is fading. People are moving left by being squeezed by the failures of the system, the immoral depravity of it. Billionaires and politicians of both parties avoid blame when migrants are blamed. Democrats and Republicans both benefit from the game of politics regarding ICE. One side gets to pretend they're standing up for the people while having a career of supporting ICE and only recent votes against ICE. The other side gets to claim they're saving the country from a problem that isn't really a problem. The game that politicians play is how can we protect capitalism and liberal institutions of America, even if they are deadly, and how corrupt can we be while seeming sincere and keeping Americans' hopes alive that they can reform the government despite no reason to think so. They are told that everything that is reasonable is too extreme, especially by career politicians. One side needs ICE to look like heroes, Republicans. The other side needs ICE to help make Republicans look like enemies of the country, Democrats. Both parties are competitively controlled opposition, so neither party offers any viable method of change or regulation, especially as the corruption grows. People are told that the solutions to their problems are immoral and dangerous. This is a lie. The government and all institutions of it have a vested interest in self-maintenance, and they espouse propaganda that communist activities are violent, immoral, and unjust and lack democracy, which is untrue. Fear gets taught through documentaries, games, and other forms of propaganda. The United States has had 100 years to craft its propaganda, but it can only fool people for so long. The cultural hegemony is too strong, but it is fading. Cultural hegemony shows up in our movies, games, TV shows, and our media, both national and local. They are scripted from top to bottom and just enough wiggle room in the reporting to give a false sense of independence, as opposed to being state media. When fear fails to suppress resistance, and that resistance is sustained, there are material gains to be had. Communist organizing is what will save us. Communist organizing to me is about community protection and offering alternatives to the system as it exists, dual power. It is not a violent call for revolution like people think. It is not asking for a civil war. It is asking for communities to organize themselves to be better prepared to resist fascism. My hope is that when you finish this video, you will become more involved in your community, that you will become an organizer, a neighbor, and a friend to those who are oppressed. Without these things, community has no defense. The terror will continue. The point of this video is to inspire real resistance, not just performative walks around our city with thousands of others. If you do attend those protests, make sure to utilize them to recruit and organize your community. ICE exists to terrorize people who are being scapegoated for an economic collapse and the melting pot of American settler colonialism. Fear is being used to suppress resistance. Organizing is dangerous only to the enemies of the working class, namely the billionaires and the politicians. Thank you for listening.